Enforcement Hour. This is your sheriff, John Myers, and our technical advisor, Maddie Hyde.
Hey, sir, how about you shut it for a second? We're already live.
So kick back and stay tuned and enjoy the show. Are we ready? This is a local law enforcement hour, Maddie. Your favorite day of the week.
If you'd wear headphones, we would be fine.
You've been looking forward to Thursday evening at 5 o'clock since last Thursday evening at 6 o'clock.
I knew.
You know you have. You can admit it.
Whatever.
So today I've got 3 guests, and they're all police. One of them's for sure police. The other two, we don't consider us at the sheriff's office. We don't consider ourselves police. We're deputies. We're deputy sheriffs. There's a difference. I always have that conversation with people. Say you're police. I said, I ain't police. Well, you got a badge. Well, I know I got a badge. Sheriff's deputy. We're different.
Same family, just cousins, right?
Same thing, but different.
That's it. Blake, tell us about you and who you are and what you do. You're a captain now, right?
Yes, sir. Got promoted about 1.5 years ago. Back on patrol. Love it. Got a good group. I enjoy working for the city of Lawrenceburg. I have 4 officers under my command right now who work hard, do a good job. They're not only good people, they care about the community they work in.
You're day shift too, right?
Yes, sir. Got lucky. Day shift 36. Whew.
Now, before that, you was lieutenant or sergeant in CID?
Yes, sir. I was a lieutenant in the Criminal Investigative Division for Lawrenceburg. Kind of helping out, overseeing drug, violent crimes, crimes towards children.
When did you start? How many years you got?
Oh, mercy. I first put my badge on in 2004, age 19.
Mm-hmm.
It seems so long ago.
When you going to retire?
Oh, maybe tomorrow.
I would if I could. Nah, I wouldn't.
But my wife says I can't. But no, I enjoy it. Been here my whole life. I like working in the community I live in. Makes it more personal.
Sure it does.
I think it makes you want to do a better job.
Yeah.
So, started out with the sheriff's office under Sheriff Dornan.
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Matter of fact, back then, if you were under the age of 21, I think it might have been a legal issue. My daddy had to go buy my gun so I could go to work.
Wow.
Because I wasn't old enough to buy it myself.
Same way I was when I started.
So good times, and I'm glad to be here.
Heck yeah.
Thank
Carrie?
you for the invite.
Yes.
Carrie's one of yours.
One of mine.
One of yours.
One of mine.
When did you start the sheriff's department?
2009.
Summertown girl.
I am.
Graduated Summertown.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember. I could tell you a few stories about your.
My brothers.
Don't do what? See, right now, me and you's gonna have a problem.
Everybody can hear it, but you.
All right. Well, thank you. You ain't gotta be so hateful, though. That's the thing. Please.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So you're Steve and
Greg.
and Greg.
Sister.
Yep.
I am.
Yeah, I can tell you some stories about Steve.
I bet.
Mm-hmm. That was the days.
I think y'all used to run around together.
You could say that. That's putting it lightly.
Is it?
Running around. So you've been in CID for how long?
4 years, I think. About 4 years.
Yeah, about 4.
Mm-hmm. So, been with the department 15.
Did you start in the jail?
No, I started as the records clerk.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I remember that.
And then I served as SRO, court deputy, and I have worked in the jail for you. So I've worked all over,
Well, that's
and I enjoy it all. Been on the road, been corporal on the road.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I didn't know you'd been there that long.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Garrett, Sarge,
I'm here.
Sergeant Garrett Brown. You've been an employee since when?
I started in 2015 on patrol. 2018, I got promoted to criminal investigations, and then January of this year, I was promoted to sergeant over criminal investigations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
And you've been doing a great job since.
Well, I try.
I just happen to know. I just happen to know that.
Well, thank you, thank you. I think.
I think it's because his employees make
Yes, that's
them
what
look
it is.
good.
It's my
That's
employees.
what
I
it
have
is.
a great group of employees. So.
Push button employees, right? Yeah, they're just push button. Yeah, low maintenance. I'm all about that.
Well, we don't have any problems there, so that's always good.
So you guys have been busy, and I know you've been busy because I've been seeing all the cases coming across the desk, all the reports, listening to the calls come over the radio. We don't monitor city frequencies, but I know we've been busy, and we are always busy summertime.
We are.
I mean, you can look, you can get the printouts from 911, and you can see the call volume broke down in a graph, and you can see it always spikes in the summertime.
Yep.
And that's calls across the board. That's not your petty crimes, as we call them, but I mean, we've had some pretty serious violent crimes here of late. City has too.
Yes, sir.
So, but what makes up, and that's going to be our topic of discussion today, is scams and fraud. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because I've seen a spike in these scams and calls. And what I'd like to do is go over a few and the most popular ones that we've been seeing, and talk about it, and maybe give some people some insight on how to know when they're about to get scammed. Hopefully they can catch it before.
Avoid.
Exactly, before they send somebody some money. And the reason, well, let's go back about 3 weeks ago. I get a call from a guy, and I don't talk to him every day. I don't talk to him every month. I might talk to him 3 or 4 times a year. He's a great guy, big supporter, big business owner in the community, and sometimes he's got $2 or $3 million in a bank account throughout the year.
I think you should be talking to him a little bit more than 3 or 4 times a year, Sheriff.
But anyway, this guy calls me up and he says, "Let me explain what happened on this phone call, and you tell me what you think." Well, he proceeds to tell me about this guy. He gets a phone call from him, and he's posing as a Border Patrol agent. And he says that he's calling from somewhere in Texas, maybe New Mexico or somewhere, and he's telling this guy, he said, "We intercepted a package that's got drugs in it, and it came from your address." And what he was wanting to do, he's wanting to transfer him to maybe the U.S. Marshals or
Yes.
somebody, and how to avoid being arrested. And the guy even used my name, Sheriff John Myers, the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, is going to come and arrest you and detain you until we can get there, you know. But this guy, I mean, he's a smart guy and a quick thinker, and he's like, "Yeah, right, I don't have time for this," and he hangs up on him. Well, the guy calls him back, and I mean, he's a little bit more aggressive this second time. But he still knows that this is a scam, or he feels pretty confident it is. So he turns around and he calls me, and he's telling me about it. And he said, "Well," he said, "2 questions. 1, do you have a warrant for my arrest? And number 2, is this a scam?" And I said, "No and yes."
In that order, right?
Yeah, no, but that's the first time that I'd heard about it. And then a few days later, on I think it was one of the news networks in the morning, 2, 4, or 5. They was doing an interview with a woman that had the same scam, the exact same scam she's talking about, and she actually went and took cash money out of an account and wired it to them. And I forget how many thousands of dollars it was, and then I heard one. Well, I'll let y'all know the ones that I'm talking about, that I'm thinking about too. But I was pulling some numbers before y'all got here, and and this is just doing a search on my phone, 108.5 million is what's been reported in 22 just in Tennessee.
I was fixing to say that sounds like a low number compared to the national standards.
108.5 million just in Tennessee, but 8.8 billion across the nation. Now, I tell people when they're telling me that they've been scammed or they think they're being scammed and they're wanting to know, why can't we just go catch them? Why can't we find them? And I can't remember where I saw that information at. But if you can imagine some building, some abandoned looking building in some third world country
Yes.
with a bunch of cubicles sitting at it
Yep.
and a bunch of people sitting there with a call list. I can imagine they probably have a supervisor and he brings them a call list and says, here's your calls for the day, and that's all they do.
That's all they do.
Sure, it's a
Is-
legitimate business for them.
Is just sit
It's
there
lucrative.
Yeah.
and go down the list and try to scam these people out of their money.
Yep.
And they pose as pretty women with starving kids.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's talk about some of the ones that we're seeing right now. I know you got some reports right there, Garrett. Let's talk about some of the ones that's been reported lately and go from there.
Okay. We had one the other day. Someone had called this lady and said that they were Publishers Clearinghouse, and that
That one's been around
Yeah.
for
it
years.
has,
hasn't
it
Yeah.
has, but it's still happening. And said that she's won, I believe, $9 million a week and a new Mercedes. And all she has to do is pay the taxes on that. But the way to pay the taxes is she's got to go to Kroger or Walmart or wherever and buy prepaid gift cards and load $500 a piece on there and tell them the numbers on the phone of those cards. So you get 17, 18 gift cards, $500 a piece. You know, that's talking a lot of money. And, by the time she reads off the numbers over the phone, they've got the information. They can start cashing out on that. We actually have a software. If we have access to the cards or the card numbers, I can put those card numbers in the software or swipe the card, and it will tell me if there's any funds left on that or not. So when I did swipe these, there were only 3 or 4 cards that had money left on them. So I was able to freeze that and save her at least $1,500.
Is there any way to check or cross check where they was cashed out at, where the money was pulled off of them? I mean,
Possibly, depending on where it was at. If it's out of country, I don't know. In the U.S., there should be a way. It's a lot of paperwork, but there should be a possibility to either subpoena the bank for that information on where they were cashed out at or where the cards were swiped. But there should be a way. Unless it's out of country, then
right.
who knows?
You was just talking before we got started about a juvenile.
Our juveniles are being targeted also, which
Well-
we're used to the elderly, but now the juveniles are being targeted. This particular juvenile was targeted because someone had asked for intimate pictures, and he did give an intimate picture, but that's not the only one we've had. We've had more than one. So even if the juvenile doesn't give the picture, these people are keeping pictures and saying the juvenile has sent the picture. So they say, if you don't give me $1,000, I'm going to post that this intimate picture is you, whether they sent one or not. So a teenager, pre-teenager being who they are, they're afraid of that social, stigma being left with them. And if they have money, they're going to give it because they don't have to have the full $1,000. When this juvenile said, I'm a kid, I don't have $1,000. The scammer said, well, what do you do have? Give me 200.
Mm-hmm. So this was a social media app that he was approached on?
Yes.
The one that comes to my mind was sometime last year, and I can't remember the guy's name. I know him, but I can't remember his name. and he had been, I don't know if it was on a porn site or if it was on one of those dating apps or something, but he gets hooked up through a social media app with this guy, and they start sending pictures of each other back and forth. Well, then he gets a phone call from another guy who says the pictures that you were trading with is my son, and he's 15. And if you don't send me however much money, then I'm going to the authorities to have you arrested for soliciting sex or whatever
minor.
from my minor son.
We've had that same situation.
Yeah, and this guy fell for it. And I think he emptied out one of his checking accounts to the tune of like 14 grand or something.
Wow.
And sent this guy. And then he calls me after the fact.
Right.
And I'm talking to him, and I says, no, I mean, that's not how it works. And he says, what do I do? And I said, well, you're probably never going to see that money again, number one. Number two, stay off of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can imagine those dating sites and those porn sites are monitored by the second by these scam companies.
Oh, I don't doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
You know they are.
Yes.
You know they are, and they're just circling like sharks, waiting for somebody to make the wrong move, and then they get them.
Yeah.
What's something y'all been seeing lately, Blake?
Well, first of all, I'm a city employee, so I have to give a disclaimer.
Yeah, get that disclaimer
Yeah,
out. We
gotta
don't
give a
want you
disclaimer.
getting any kind of trouble or getting
Yes,
sued or anything.
my opinions and views are that of my own as a law enforcement supervisor. They do not necessarily reflect the opinion and views of the Lawrenceburg Police Department or the city of Lawrenceburg. So,
Why do you find why is that so entertaining,
why,
Maddie?
was that funny?
very
Because it sure wasn't when I got told I had to say
You've
that.
done a great job. You've done a great job. You've done
I
a
didn't even
great
have that
job.
wrote down.
I'm gonna call your chief and tell him
Be impressed.
that you knocked that out of the park.
I mean, you didn't even mispronounce anything. You said it right on.
Well, I'm
time.
sure if you go back and replay it,
You
I
did
probably.
great. I heard it in my ears.
Good. So yes, we have. We've been seeing some things, unfortunately. The scenario that you just talked about of some of the pictures that you have seen or some of the pictures that you have shared are that of my 13-year-old daughter. If you don't want us to go to the police department, you will pay us, for her hurting or for his hurting. You will pay us for our time and concern, and then we won't go to the police about you. Thankfully, he was candid enough to call us and say, okay, this is what I've done. I thought that I was communicating with an adult. They're saying this now. You're more than welcome to come get my phone, look at it, see that nothing, was anywhere where it shouldn't be in regards to a juvenile. I mean, he was just beside himself. Thankfully, he had not sent any money at that time, but that's one of few of non-elderly people. For us, it's mostly elderly. Whenever I got my new department phone number, I was being targeted. I mean, left and right, and it was generally the sweepstakes deal. You've won $3 million in a brand new Mercedes-Benz. Go to Walgreens, get a Money Doc card, and after a little while, and I'd keep them on the phone forever because it was like if they're talking to me, they're not talking to someone else that they could scam. So one day I was like, I don't know what a Green Dot Money Card is, but I'm going to go find out. So with him on the phone, I went to Walgreens, got one, scratched off the back, and I noticed it was all numbers. Well, I'd start reading the numbers off to him, and I'd get to like the third one from the end, and I would throw a letter in there. He would lose his mind. I mean, would lose his mind. And this went on for forever. Another example, one day I did something close to this. I got a job offer. When the guy's like, you're wasting my time, you're just playing with me. I'm like, yes, I am, because I'm a cop and I know what you're doing. And he just got quiet. He said, let me ask you a question. How much money do you make a year? I mean, I wasn't ashamed of it. I didn't care to tell him. I told him at that time. It was like $38,000. He was like, why don't you come work for me? You know how to talk to people. And I was like, no, sir, I'm not crossing that line. And he's like, no, I'm serious. I'll give you, and he's talking about as good of English as anybody sitting in this room. He said, no, I will pay you $100,000 a year. I will send you all the equipment, all the information that you need. And as a bonus, I'll throw another 10% of every dollar you bring in to me goes back to you.
So why didn't you go deep undercover? Why didn't you do it?
Well,
I mean, you had the golden opportunity
I
right
did,
there, Captain.
Sheriff.
Well, you already told him he was a cop.
I did.
I know.
So, trying to go further with it, so I contacted the TBI, and that's when I learned that most of these scammers that, especially the elderly, are dealing with are, like you said, they're in an abandoned building somewhere with multiple peoples, with all these call lists, and they're generally in a country that has no extradition. So even if we wanted to go after them, we couldn't. And like you said several times, us sitting here talking, generally when you get there, you understand that their money's gone and they're never getting it back, and there's nothing we can do about it. And that's why sitting here today with y'all, I feel privileged. Education and information to the public is how we're going to get a lot of this stopped. Because as you said, $8.8 billion, that's ridiculous. But the facts are that, according to the FBI, millions upon millions of just elderly are successfully targeted by these bad guys every year.
And they're probably a big percentage of that's never reported.
And that's funny you say that, because that's one of the biggest disclaimers that the FBI has, is that elderly victims are less likely to report it, mainly because they feel ashamed. And not only do they feel ashamed, they fear that their family will think that they're incompetent to take care of their financial assets, and that power will be taken from them.
We had that I don't know, a couple of years ago. A woman called me about her mother that was giving money to this scammer, and I went over and talked to her mother with her present. And I said, just don't answer the phone. She said, you don't understand. She said, I'm in this house all by myself. I get tired of sitting here by myself. I like talking to people. And I said, well, just don't talk to them.
Yeah.
But and her attitude was, well, you know what? It's my money. I can give it away if I want to. And I don't know whatever happened with that. I don't know if the family ever got some kind of power of attorney or something and got her accounts to where she couldn't get in there. And I don't know. But it was kind of sad that she was just wanting somebody to talk to, wanting something
Yeah,
to
I
do.
mean, that is sad.
What else we got? Anything else come to mind?
Yeah, we've actually got another recent one is people will get calls from someone claiming to be an employee of a bank that they bank with and asking them if they have just recently used their card in a completely different state. And of course, they didn't use the card, and they're like, okay, well, it seems that this is fraudulent, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cancel that card, and we're going to send you a new one. Now, I need to confirm some information real quick. Is your card number, and they'll rattle off the last four, probably that they got from digging through their trash, finding a bank statement with the last four of their card number on it. So they'll say the last four of their card number, and they'll say, okay, well, this new card that we're going to send to you, it's going to have the same PIN number as your current card. And what is that number? That way we can make sure it's the same. So they might or might not tell them the PIN number. Well, if they do tell them the PIN number, they'll be like, okay, well, that card has been canceled. Your new card is going to be expedited, sent to your house. What we need you to do is go ahead and put that card in an envelope and put it in your mailbox, and we're going to have an employee with your local bank branch come to your house, get that card out of the mailbox, and send it to our national office. Well, of course, that doesn't happen. It's actually the scammer is going to come to the house, get the card out of there. They already had the PIN number. They're going to go to the ATM and then withdraw all that they can.
Wow.
So they have to have people locally. They have to have people locally.
To pick that up out of the mailbox.
So did this
That
person went through with it?
Oh, yes, definitely. I think they got around 5,000 out of the account.
You know, I get, and it may be totally legit, I don't know. But if I order something on Amazon and it's being shipped to UPS, have y'all ever got the text message saying that there's been a problem with your order?
Mm-hmm.
And you're to go in there and call this number
Every
or go to this
single
link?
day.
So what is that? Has anybody ever done that to see
No,
what
I
that
haven't.
is? It's got to be a scam. It's
I
got to be
just-
some kind of a scam.
I just delete it and
Yep.
report it as junk.
So, from what I understand, is what they're mainly looking for there is to verify that there's a working number. Okay, because a lot of times these systems that they have built or they have bought will send out like hundreds upon hundreds of phone calls at one time, and which of them numbers answered, voicemail, no voicemail, and then it's documented. So, from what I understand, is when they ask you to reply to something, that is either someone sitting in a cubicle or that is a computer system trying to verify that that phone number we got a response from. It's kind of like a bite on a hook. Okay, now let's cast again and try to get that fish in.
Do the banks not have somebody on the payroll for fraud? I mean, do they not have?
They
They
do.
have the
Usually
Banks
it's
have to
their
have investigators
national
because they've
office
got
usually.
insurance. I mean, do we work with any bank investigators here that y'all know of?
Locally, I don't know of any actual investigators locally. Usually it's a 1-800 number you have to call. They're located somewhere out of state.
At like a main branch type.
And it's either a phone call or an email that you have to go back and forth
It
with
makes
them.
you wonder. It makes you wonder what they do, how far they get with some of this stuff. TBI's got a fraud unit, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's who usually goes after the ones that's too far out of our reach.
And-
We've sent many to them.
You would think, as big as a problem as this is, and how much money it's costing American citizens every year, that there would be a national. I mean, we got an ATF. We got an alcohol, tobacco, and firearms federal organization. Why can't we have a fraud organization to do nothing, that's got a budget and the resources to go across state lines and work with Interpol and other countries and stuff? Why? I mean, I don't understand why we don't have that.
That's a good question, but I think at the end of the day, you'd probably find that the answer is more shocking than us as law enforcement could even think it is. Because 8.8 billion, that's what they know of. How many seniors, again, because of fear, because they don't want to look like, they don't have it anymore. Of the 8.8 billion, I mean, is there another 4 billion out there that we don't know about? That's kind of scary to think about.
I keep going back to this lady that came into my office. It's been so long ago. It had to have been in 18 or 19 because my office was still way up front. It was still way up front before I moved it all the way back to the rear. But she had gotten a phone call from a guy that said that he had a warrant for arrest, and if she didn't send him this money, he was going to come to her house and arrest her, and had her convinced to the point to where she was in tears. And she called me, and I said, well, just come on by the office. I'm here. And she came by, and she was frantic. She was frantic that because this guy had gotten really aggressive, and he had said some really ugly things to her and had her scared. And so I called the guy up on her cell phone, and he didn't answer, and I left a voicemail, and it was just a generic voicemail. And I even identified myself as Lawrence County Sheriff John Myers. The guy called back. He called back in like 3 or 4 minutes, and I told him who I was, and I said, I want to know why you're posing as a law enforcement officer. And we start going back and forth, and I've got him on speakerphone. I think I had an audience. I think Lana and Marty and 2 or 3 more people was standing out in front of my office listening to this conversation, listening to me and him going back and forth. And it got to the point where I was telling him, I said, come to 240 West Gaines. I said, if you'll pull in this parking lot, I said, I will physically drag you out of the car and put my knee in the back of your neck, and I will handcuff you, and I will put you in jail, and I'll hold you for 10 days, and I'll talk to the judge, because me and him go to breakfast twice a month, and he knows me, and I know him. We're good buddies, and I'm going to recommend you don't get bail for 10 days. I said, so you'll sit in my jail for 10 days. I said, come to 240 West Gaines. And he wouldn't do it.
I was going to say, he didn't show, did he?
No. He just kept cussing. I mean, it got where he was just. I mean, he was so frustrated that his professional voice that he was using to scam people, it went out the window. And he went straight back to some ghetto, to some ghetto stuff, and it was pretty comical there for a while. But that's the way it ended, with me begging him to come to the parking lot, and I'd show him who I was.
And these stories are good, but I think what the listeners really need to understand is, there are actually categories for these scammers that call people on the phone. And for the most part, there's four main categories. There's love and romance, lottery, and sweepstakes. We've already talked about them. You just shared a story about government impersonations. But now what they're seeing, according to the TBI and FBI, they're actually starting to see more in-person scammers. Again, targeting the elderly, showing up your house. Sir, do you know that your gutter on the back of your house is about to fall off? I would hate for one of your grandchildren to get hurt. Or, this window right here is this way or that way. And what they will do is go ahead, make personal contact, show up at their home, get a down payment, and at times we'll also get banking information. Should that check bounce, or should it not go through a third bank? Well, what is the routing number? This and that, and walking away. Of course, never completing any updates or improvements of the home, and just walking away with their money. And 30 days, 60 days later, Grandpa Joe is sitting there wondering why the back gutter has not been fixed. And
How many do we work? That's off of a Facebook trading post or Craigslist or something, because I keep remembering the guy that he worked at Doss Brothers, and he had bought a Jeep on Facebook trading post, and the guy gave him a fraudulent cashier's check. The check looked totally legit. He even called his banking person, snapped a picture of it, sent it to his banking person. His banking person looked at it and says, yeah, that looks legit. I think you're good to take it. It was on a Sunday, which is an indicator.
Right.
Nobody's open.
Home office, yeah.
And the guy did the transaction, and then Monday he goes to put the check in the bank, and they're like, no, this isn't a real check. It was a cashier's check that looked totally legit, but it wasn't. And it even had the routing number of the bank. The bank was legit, and the routing number was legit, but the account number wasn't a good. And the bank was out of like Denver, Colorado or something, and the dude had an Alabama driver's license, but the vehicle was posted in Nashville. So all these indicators was there, but he went on the fact that the person said, it looks like a good check. I think you're okay to take it. So he did. We were able to get his money back. We were able to get that figured out because the guy that scammed him was dumb enough to answer the phone. And when he answered the phone, we told him, look, you need to make good on this. So anyway, it wound up working out. But I wonder how many that we work.
I know we've worked a couple that are similar to that. Mainly those types of crimes that we look into, it's the opposite way around. They see an item or an animal for sale, either on the trading post, Facebook, somewhere. And when they reach out, contact them, they're like, yeah, it's still for sale, but so we can hold it for you, we require a down payment. So if you can send us a down payment of $1,000 via Cash App, then we'll go ahead and hold it for you. And as soon as they send that $1,000, then they just block them and cut all contact. Now they're out $1,000, and since they sent it themselves, the bank isn't going to refund that.
I'm telling you, if I was buying or selling something on the internet, on Craigslist or Marketplace or whatever, I would say cash only. It'd have to be a cash deal. Or if I was going to take a cashier's check, it would have to be mid-afternoon or mid-morning, Monday
at the
through
bank.
Friday. Yeah. Where you could call right then, and then still I think you're kind of rolling dice. You're rolling dice anyway when you're posting something on social media to sell, or you're buying something on social media, especially selling something. I mean, how many counterfeit cases do we have open right now in Etheridge with the Amish? I mean, we probably got a dozen right now that's open where people will come and they'll purchase Amish goods and pay with counterfeit money. And
It's
then
not
that-
even the Amish. I mean, we've got one where
Yeah.
they were buying lottery tickets. They kept coming in and out of the store buying lottery tickets, and then finally on the last time, they wanted a $100 one. And so they handed him the $100 ticket. He handed him a crumpled up $100 bill and left. And then by the time he was already in his car and gone, they look at the $100 bill and it's fake.
Yeah. Well, Amish are such easy targets. They know that they know they can't pick up a phone and call anybody, or they can't, run to the bank real quick. And
Have you discussed the pins with them, Sheriff?
We
the
have.
markers that they can check.
we have, and it's not as prevalent as it used to be. But it seemed like, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 summers ago where we had several of them that hit that area up there with counterfeit money. But
Well, and these people, they go like we've discussed, they go after easy targets. But also, as we've mentioned, generally most of the time there are several indicators, not just one or maybe two. There are generally several. And what I've seen over the years, my wife had a friend to, I guess, get taken advantage of emotionally. Thankfully, there was no money exchanged, but there was a thought: could something be off here? And I'm talking just scrolling down, looking myself. I'm like, this ain't right. Okay, you look, for instance, spelling, grammar, the use of darling, honey, baby. My experience over the past 7-8 years, that's not only red flags. That should be like fireworks going off. You've just been talking to me for 12, 24 hours, and it is, do you ever want to get married again? Honey, baby, darling, and not spelling stuff right, not being grammatically correct in how you talk to somebody. And for me, looking at cell phones, looking at conversations, Facebook messages, that has been the first thing. Because what history has showed is once they can find the attachment to you emotionally, they can start that attachment to you on a monetarily level, and then the sky's the limit. Depending on how much you have in your bank account. And it's sad. It's very sad.
Carrie, anything else you can think of that we hadn't talked about?
Well, just the amount we ran, and we have had 60 in the last year. That's quite a bit for Lawrence County.
Is that fraud cases where
That's-
somebody, or is that identity theft, or all
That's
of it?
both.
Okay.
Wire fraud, identity theft, false pretenses, like you had just talked about, forgery. That's all of them. We had 60 in the last year, from last June to this June.
I got you.
So,
Yeah.
if we could give a little flyer at some meetings, maybe make up, because we had did that at one time, didn't we?
We did. I think we were actually given the flyers by, it was a company or something, and it was to hand those
And we
out.
handed them out somewhere
Yes.
at an elderly get together, I think.
May have
can't
been.
remember.
I spoke at the senior citizens a while back. Hadn't done it in a while. I also spoke. It might have been the Kiwanis Club had a meeting, and I talked about scams. I think the biggest thing that we can put out, and we do our due diligence. I mean, we talk about scams all the time. I talk about them a lot on Friday mornings when I sit down in here on the morning show. But I think probably the most important thing we can do is kind of like what you was talking about. Let people know the indicators. Let people know for me, and what I tell people, anytime you get a phone call from somebody wanting money, it's a scam. Wanting money. If they call and they want you to send them money in some shape, form, or fashion, it's a scam. We're not going to call you if we've got an arrest warrant on you.
Right.
And we're especially not going to say you can post your bond with
Yeah.
prepaid debit cards.
Yeah, or green dot cards.
green dot cards.
Yeah.
Google
Play cards.
Bitcoin. They're
Yeah.
wearing Bitcoin out right now.
Yeah.
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 So if somebody calls you up and they want money, it's a scam.
Absolutely.
100%.
Even if it's the IRS, because that's
That's
one
another
of the
one.
major ones.
That-
Okay, because it's like, okay, the money people are calling me, wanting money. I better give them some money. And that's the great thing about government. If our listeners could understand is, if something is wrong, if it comes down to somebody being in trouble or somebody owing some money, all right, in person or the mail, generally no other way of communication. They will either send you something certified in the mail or they will come to your house personally.
If you have a warrant or you have a subpoena or you have a criminal summons, you are going to see a bona fide, certified, commissioned sheriff's deputy will come to your house
With a badge.
with a badge, with a gun, with a form of identification, and if you're not there, our warrant sergeant will leave his card and say, contact me at this number. Because I've had people call me and say, is this legit? Send me a picture of Sergeant Cody's card you left, and they'll send a picture of it, and they'll say, hey, Sheriff, is this legit? I said, yeah, that's one of my sergeants. He's got something on you. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of a subpoena or summons or something. But yeah, we're not going to call you up.
Yeah, this ain't the movies. We don't call you and tell you that we're on our way.
We're on the way.
Yeah.
Barricade yourself.
Yeah. Get ready.
Something else, and it was there, and now it's gone. There was another one. You brought up the IRS was a popular one that was going around for a long time. Help me out, Garrett. What's another one?
Well, I have a newer one that we just got the other day, and I think you might know a little bit about it too, because I think you were contacted about it. Somebody was contacted by a complete stranger. They called their phone and gave them some sort of sob story, saying that their spouse just left them, they're getting a divorce, and drained all the money out of their joint banking account. Well, now I can't make my rent payment. I can't buy food for my kids. I've got 3 young kids. I need you to help me out and help me pay my rent and buy me some, or give me some money for some groceries. And I think they met them in person, and there might have been a weird feeling, so no money was exchanged. But that's something that.
That was the one at the church.
Yes, it was at a church.
Yep.
Is where they met. I
Yep.
believe.
That needing money for rent.
Yep.
And they went to the church, and they had conflicting stories from the homeowner and the renter.
Yep.
And then when he struck out there, he went to a different church. Yep.
See, and that's why it's so important for information and education. But that's not the only thing you need. Them gut feelings, okay? If you're messaging somebody on Facebook or maybe on another side, or even like this story, if you meet somebody in person and you get that feeling that, man, something just don't seem right, or something seems a little off here, or it's not exactly what he said to me yesterday. You hardly ever get hurt by walking away. And I mean, that's real. That's real. Some people don't know they have the option to either turn that cell phone off,
Turn it off and block their number.
That's
That's
it.
what I tell them all the time.
or just walk away.
Hang up and block the number.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you won't have to deal with them no more.
Or if they get to the point where they're like, okay, we need you to go and get these prepaid cards. No legitimate business is ever going to ask you to do that.
No.
Ever.
They won't, because that's not the proper way.
No.
So, stay off porn sites. That's
Preferably,
key.
yes. Yeah,
That's
that is
key.
key.
Stay off porn sites. Quit
Yes.
looking for a good time on porn sites and on these social media hookup apps.
Yep.
What's some of them called? Farmers Only.
FarmersOnly.com.
Farmers Only. That's great.
They got a great commercial.
I'm over
Christian
here just,
mingle.
Okay, I'm going with it.
You don't have an account.
No, sir. I don't even have Facebook.
Well, I don't either.
Mercy.
I don't either.
It,
Well, I've got it, and I'm not going to say what I think about Facebook, but it's a great tool. It can have a lot of great things. I mean, I was talking to a friend in another third world country that I knew back in 04, 05, and 06. You know, it's technology's so cool. I mean, when I'm sitting there thinking about it and I'm having this conversation, he's showing me his kids, you know, and his English is still crap. You can't hardly understand anything he's saying, but he's showing me his kids on the video, and it's so cool. And that's the good stuff about Facebook. But it's such a hotbed for criminal activity.
Absolutely.
And the criminals have figured out, you know, it's real easy to do crime and commit criminal acts and further your criminal intentions on social media.
well, a good person with social media is not really that much different than a good person with a big heart. Okay, you got a lot of bad guys out there that are just waiting there, ready to take advantage of both. One or both of the situations. Somebody who has the means to receive that influence, or somebody that just has a big heart that will just spend a little too much time talking to you on the cell phone. But you know, I don't want it to seem like we're just bashing, you know, teenagers or senior citizens who might be a little bit, you know, impressionable. The fact is, you have almost as many adults getting scammed today as you do senior citizens.
Yeah, because the scammers have gotten smarter.
Absolutely.
They've gotten better. They've gotten sharper. They got their English. They've honed their English. You know, where they don't sound so foreign.
And
you know?
they'll generally go after us at our workplace. I mean, how many times have you heard of somebody clicking on the wrong attachment in an email, or getting an email from Garrett Brown and be like, "Hey, Blake, look this case over that I did the other day. I want to make sure I got my ducks in a row." And by not looking at that email address, just seeing your name, Garrett Brown, you know, in the subject matter, I'm clicking on that attachment, and then next thing you know, we have a problem. So yes, we're getting hit, or we're getting sought after just as aggressively as the senior citizens.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating because I don't feel like we can ever gain any ground on it locally. I mean, when somebody calls you up and says, "I just emptied out my checking account that I've been saving in for 6, 8, 10 years, you know, what can I do?" And it sucks when you got to say, "Yeah, money's gone."
It's heartbreaking.
Well, and
That's
if
why.
it is,
That's why I think a federal agency should commit to a major fraud unit. We should.
well, and I have something for that in a minute. I've got a website that I'm going to give out. It's through the FBI, and it's for cyber crimes.
Mhm.
And I'll give it out right now. It is ic3.gov, and that is to report cyber crimes, and the victim can do that themselves. We can give them that website. They go to ic3.gov, and they can report directly to the FBI what type of cyber crime they were just a victim of.
I got you. I just wonder if they don't tell them to go through their local law enforcement if it doesn't
Well,
meet a certain criteria.
if I can remember, I believe there's an area on there where it says, "Have you reported this to law enforcement? If yes, what is the agency and case number?" So, you know, I don't know if they follow up on it or not. I just know that is where you can report it to a federal agency. Once you report it, I don't know what happens. You know, I don't work for the FBI, so I don't know that department.
Well, we want you to report it.
Of course.
And doesn't matter if you sent them any money, if you didn't send them any money. I mean, it keeps us up to speed on the latest trends. It's like I'd never heard of this one with the Border Patrol. The guy posing as a Border Patrol. Never heard of that one until that guy called me up out of the blue that day and was telling me about it. He said, "Do I need to report it?" And I said, "No, what you're telling me right now is good enough. You know, if you didn't send any money or nothing like that, then don't worry about it." How much time we got?
Any minute now. It hadn't started the countdown yet. You're still good.
Oh,
Probably like a minute.
So yeah, to recap, I mean, no
Scams are bad.
Yeah, scams
Yeah.
are bad. No social security numbers, dates of birth, banking account informations, and it's something we hit on. Passwords to emails. That is something else that's going around. Is we say you have a problem with your computer. It's likely that you've received a bad email, clicked on the wrong attachment. Give me your password. I'm gonna go in and help you try to fix it. So yeah, I mean that's big. If it feels wrong, it probably is wrong.
stuff like that we think's common sense.
Yes.
We just say, I mean, that's common sense. You don't give that stuff out. But there's a lot of people out there that are just not savvy to technology,
Right.
you know, and they don't know that they shouldn't give stuff out. You wouldn't think that your name and date of birth could get a bad guy so much stuff.
Yes, sir.
Just your name and date of birth. He can take that and get, I mean,
Because today, if he has your name and date of birth, tomorrow he might be able to get your social security
what about
number.
the one I saw? What about the one I saw in Nashville on the morning news? The where they was able to hack in and put their name on their title on their deed.
Yes.
Oh,
Did you see that?
And they
Memphis.
squat in the house and they have the deed. So they have the house. Yes, I saw
Is that not crazy?
Yes.
Yes.
Memphis, 3,400 incidents, and I believe it was either 2021 or 2022. Like 3,400 incidents where somebody has went in and put their name on a deed, turned right around, sold it. The new owners come up to the house and is like,
Yeah. Here's a bill of sale.
"Why are
We
you
just
in?
bought
Yeah,
this.
why are you in my house?" And it's like, "Hold up, this is my house," and it's oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
horrible.
I'd probably turn into a criminal. I'd probably be wearing an orange jumpsuit next week. All right, we wrapping it up, Maddie? We about done?
You got a minute left.
1 minute left.
Is there anything you want to say?
Well, report it. 762-3626 is our number. Or you can call 762-0450, that's non-dispatch line, and have a deputy come out and talk to you, or an officer come out and talk to you if you got any questions about what you think's happening, if you think you're getting scammed, or you think somebody's hacked into an account. What else? What else is an indicator?
Well, before we get to that, Sheriff, I want the public to understand that we are more than happy to sit down. If you think you have a parent or a loved one that is in the process of being or attempted to be scammed, we will come to your house. We will sit down with you, look over any messages you want us to look over. I mean, not too long ago, I was at a house here in town, and I sat on their fireplace. Very old couple. And not only explained stuff, but actually pled with this couple, please don't answer any more of these phone calls. So, and our number 762-2276. Not only do we want to know if you've had fraud, but if you don't have fraud, but it's getting to that point, we'll come out, we'll talk to you, we'll sit down with you.
52 seconds. Garrett, tell everybody what you think.
I mean, you pretty much said it. I mean, report it. Even if it feels a little bit fishy, scammy. I mean, it more than likely is a scam. Like Blake said, trust your gut and just report it. If it's not a scam, that's fine. That's fine. But if it is a scam, then it's reported. We can catch it at the front end, and hopefully you don't lose your money. I mean,
There you go. And stay off porn sites. How many
Talk
times
to
have I
your
said that?
kids.
Go to
Talk-
church.
talk to
Go
your
to church
kids.
and stay off porn sites.
Yeah. Talk to your kids
There you go.
about social media.
Anything you put on that phone in the form of a picture or a text message is subject to go everywhere.
Well, and what did they tell us in grade school a long time ago? Once you say something, once it leaves your mouth, you can never get it back. It's
Yep.
the same way with these messages.
That's it. All right, we're out. We'll see you
All right,
next week.
Everybody say bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.